The year is 1206 AD. A world away from the castles and cathedrals of Europe, a storm is brewing. On the vast, unforgiving Mongolian steppe, a new power is emerging. The Mongols, masters of horse and bow, are about to unleash themselves upon an unsuspecting world. Their story is one of incredible brutality but also of unexpected sophistication. These were not mindless barbarians. Theirs is a story of adaptation, brilliance, and the sheer will to dominate. Imagine a land of endless sky, wind-whipped grass, and brutal winters. This was the world of the Mongols. Their nomadic lifestyle bred them to be hardy, resourceful, and fiercely independent. Into this cauldron of conflict, a figure would emerge, destined to change history. His name would become legend Genghis Khan. Temujin, the future Genghis Khan, began his rise to power by forging alliances. He understood that unity meant strength. He reunited his tribe, then brought others under his control through diplomacy and force. Defeated enemies had a choice: join him or face annihilation. His reputation grew with each victory, inspiring fear and respect. By 1206, he had united the Mongol tribes.
At the Kurultai, a grand assembly of Mongol leaders, I was proclaimed Genghis Khan, the Great Khan. It was the birth of an empire.
The Mongol army was a force unlike any the world had ever seen. It was built on speed, mobility, and a mastery of mounted warfare. Imagine tens of thousands of horsemen thundering across the plains, arrows raining death from the sky. The Mongol warriors were renowned for their horsemanship, archery, and discipline. They could ride for days on end, living off the land, and launch devastating surprise attacks.
Our tactics were adaptable, shifting from fluid flanking maneuvers to massed charges depending on the terrain and enemy. We were masters of psychological warfare, using terror as a weapon, deliberately spreading tales of our brutality to demoralize our enemies before a fight even began. Surrender was often the best option. Cities that resisted were subject to horrific reprisals. This fear factor played a crucial role in their rapid expansion. They incorporated conquered peoples and technologies into their ranks, learning from their enemies and turning those lessons into advantages on the battlefield. They fielded gunpowder weapons and siege engineers from China, using them to devastating effect against their enemies.
From the steppes of Mongolia, the Mongol war machine spread outwards in a whirlwind of conquest. Their empire grew with astonishing speed, sweeping across Asia in a few short decades. By the time of Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the Mongol Empire already stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, encompassing vast swaths of Central Asia, Persia, and northern China. Under Genghis Khan's successors, the empire continued to expand. His sons and grandsons carried the Mongol banners west, crushing the Khwarezmian Empire in Persia, smashing the armies of the Georgian and Armenian kingdoms, and pushing into Eastern Europe. The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan's descendants, would eventually be larger than the Roman Empire at its peak. Cities like Samarkand, Bukhara, and Baghdad, centers of Islamic learning and culture, were sacked and burned. These conquests were brutal, marked by widespread destruction and loss of life. But amidst the bloodshed, a new world order was emerging. The Mongol conquests, for all their violence, ushered in an unprecedented era of peace and stability across much of Eurasia. This period, from the mid-13th to the mid-14th centuries, is known as Pax Mongolica, Latin for Mongol peace.
It was a time of relative tranquility and prosperity, a stark contrast to the chaos and warfare that had preceded it. The Pax Mongolica had a profound impact on global trade and cultural exchange. The Mongols, recognizing the importance of commerce, protected trade routes and encouraged merchants to travel freely across their vast domain. This facilitated the flow of goods, ideas, and technologies between East and West. The Silk Road, once a perilous journey, flourished under Mongol rule. Caravans laden with silk, spices, porcelain, and other precious commodities traversed the empire, connecting the markets of China to those of Europe and the Middle East. This period also saw the rise of new trade centers and the spread of new technologies. Gunpowder, originating in China, made its way westward, eventually transforming warfare in Europe.
Genghis Khan's grandson, Kublai Khan, stands out as one of the most influential figures in Mongol history. He completed the conquest of Song Dynasty China in 1279, a feat that had eluded his predecessors.
Kublai Khan established a new dynasty in China, the Yuan dynasty, and moved the Mongol capital from Karakorum to Khanbalik, modern-day Beijing. He was a shrewd ruler who understood the importance of adapting to local customs and traditions. He adopted Chinese court rituals, employed Chinese advisors, and supported the development of Chinese art and culture. He commissioned the construction of grand canals and irrigation systems, boosting agriculture and trade. His reign marked the high point of Mongol power and sophistication. He welcomed foreign travelers and missionaries to his court, including the famed Venetian merchant Marco Polo.
Even as Kublai Khan's reign represented the zenith of Mongol power, the seeds of decline were already being sown. The vastness of the empire, stretching from the Pacific to Eastern Europe, made it incredibly difficult to govern effectively.
Maintaining control over such a diverse array of cultures and peoples proved to be a daunting task. Internal divisions within the ruling Mongol elite also weakened the empire. Disputes over succession, often violent, became more common after Kublai Khan's death in 1294. The empire, once unified under a single Khan, began to fragment into competing Khanates. These Khanates, while still formidable, lacked the unity and central authority of the early Mongol Empire. As the Mongol Empire fractured, its grip on power began to loosen.
By the mid-14th century, the once mighty Mongol Empire had splintered into several independent Khanates. These Khanates, while still bearing the Mongol name, were often at odds with one another, further weakening the overall power of the Mongols. In Persia, the Ilkhanate, once a bastion of Mongol power, crumbled under internal strife and economic decline. The Golden Horde in Russia, which had held sway over the Russian principalities for centuries, began to lose its grip on power as the Muscovite princes grew in strength. In China, the Yuan dynasty, established by Kublai Khan, faced growing resentment from the native Chinese population. Rebellions against Mongol rule became more common, fueled by economic hardship and a desire to restore native Chinese rule. As if internal divisions and external pressures were not enough, a new and even more devastating threat emerged in the mid-14th century: the Black Death. This horrific pandemic, one of the deadliest in human history, swept across Asia and Europe, leaving devastation in its wake. The Black Death, believed to have been bubonic plague, spread rapidly along trade routes, carried by infected fleas on rats. The Mongol Empire, with its interconnected trade networks, inadvertently facilitated the spread of the plague. Cities, once bustling centers of commerce, became death traps. The plague killed indiscriminately, striking down peasants and nobles alike. It is estimated that the Black Death may have killed as much as a third of the population of Europe and Asia. The Black Death had a catastrophic impact on the Mongol Empire. By the end of the 14th century, the Mongol Empire, once the largest contiguous land empire in history, had largely collapsed. But its impact on world history was profound and far-reaching. The Mongols, through their conquests, had reshaped the political map of Eurasia. They had facilitated cultural exchange, stimulated trade, and left an indelible mark on the collective memory of the peoples they conquered. In China, the Yuan dynasty left a lasting legacy, despite its relatively short reign. Kublai Khan's embrace of Chinese culture and his patronage of the arts helped to shape the Yuan period into a distinct era in Chinese history. The Mongols also introduced new technologies and ideas to China, including gunpowder and printing techniques, which would have a profound impact on Chinese society in the centuries to come. In Russia, the Mongol yoke, as it is often called, had a complex and enduring impact. The Mongols remain one of the most compelling and enigmatic civilizations in history. Their rise and fall, marked by both breathtaking brutality and surprising sophistication, continues to fascinate historians and ignite the imagination. What if Genghis Khan had not united the Mongol tribes? What if their westward advance had not been halted? What if the Black Death had not ravaged their empire? These what-if questions offer tantalizing glimpses into alternate historical trajectories. The Mongol Empire, despite its relatively short lifespan, had a profound and lasting impact on the course of world history. Their conquests reshaped political boundaries, facilitated cultural exchange on an unprecedented scale, and left an indelible mark on the collective memory of the peoples they encountered. Their story is a reminder that history is full of surprises, that empires rise and fall, and that even the most seemingly invincible of powers are not immune to the tides of time.